Good Tuesday morning. Thanks for joining us on KARE 11 News Now. I'm Michelle Beck. Lots of cleanup across Minnesota and western Wisconsin this morning after another round of severe storms. Overnight, high winds and heavy rain taking down massive trees in several cities. We haven't seen any reports of injuries yet. The storm's also taking down power lines. Check out this video of a transformer fire from overnight in Eagan. Right now, Xcel Energy is showing thousands of people without power. Crews are out right now working to get everything up and running again. Now, from downed trees to transformer fires, we are seeing cleanup already underway right now in the Twin Cities. Our latest round of severe weather bringing heavy rain and strong wind and leaving behind a trail of damage. Audrey Russo is here with a closer look.
Take a look at this piece of bark that I picked up off the ground. It's pretty thick, pretty intense stuff, but this is nothing compared to what I'm standing among. This is a tree that was broken in the storm, snapped in half, and now half of its branches are lying in the middle of the road, blocking traffic and blocking car access. This is in Inver Grove Heights. This is 69th and Kane. This is not the only area, though, that got a lot of damage in last night's storm. Take a look at this video. This was gathered during the overnight hours by our photojournalist, Jennifer Teray. She was driving all around the metro, and she stopped up in Coon Rapids in Anoka County. She talked to some tree crews up there, and they were telling her that they have a method by which they prioritize which trees need to get addressed first and which trees can wait a little bit longer. Take a listen.
We come and check it out. If it's, not in the road, we leave it till the next day, but this one was blocking the whole road. And as you can see, it blew over the fence. We got it pretty much chopped up, almost done here. We have two other ones we got to cut down in the city yet.
So it's been a busy night for those crews out there, and if they use the same metric here in Inver Grove Heights that they do in Coon Rapids, I'm sure that 69th and Clay will be high on their list of priority trees that they need to remove, because again, this is blocking the roadway. One small silver lining, though, it doesn't appear as though this immediate neighborhood lost power. There are some large branches that are dangling over power lines in this area, but fortunately it doesn't look like any of those came down, and from what I can see, porch lights, house lights are all still on this morning. Back to you.
Breaking overnight, released from prison is the Minnesota man convicted of killing his parents and two siblings with an axe when he was just 16 years old. According to an officer in Lino Lakes, David Brom was released overnight after spending 35 years behind bars. A change in state law means he got out about 12 years early. Brom was sentenced to several life sentences, but in 2012, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled it is unconstitutional for juveniles to spend life in prison without parole.
Because no matter what you may think about the crime, they just lack criminal responsibility. They are developmentally not capable of being as culpable as an adult who commits those crimes.
Now, there is no guarantee an inmate will get out under the new law, but it is an opportunity for them to make a case to the Supervised Release Board. The members granted parole to 4 people convicted as juveniles last year when 23 of them had hearings. The man responsible for a deadly crash at the Park Tavern patio last year is behind bars and will be there for decades. A judge sentenced Stephen Bailey to the maximum sentence yesterday for the crash that killed 2 people and injured several more. Survivors and the victims' families face Bailey in court, telling him in heartbreaking detail how his actions altered their lives. Raya Katene has the story. We want to warn you, though, it includes newly released surveillance video that may be difficult to watch.
I will never heal.
In a Hennepin County courtroom,
I will never be the same.
The man who killed 2 people and severely injured others while driving drunk sat and listened to the words of his victims and their families.
I feel like a shell of a person trying to do what I think I'm supposed to be doing, feeling empty inside.
These are the words written by and spoken on behalf of Christina Folkert's father and stepmother, who write Christina's 3 daughters will now forever be without their mom.
Stephen Bailey took Christina's life and has also taken so many pieces of ours.
Last September, Stephen Bailey, whose blood alcohol content was more than 4 times the legal limit, drove his vehicle into the Park Tavern restaurant patio, killing Christina, who was working, and Gabe Harvey, who was out for a meal. Gabe's partner also spoke this afternoon, but did not want to be on camera.
I remember laying on the ground and looking at my legs.
They were broken and backwards.
Tegan D'Albany, a friend of Gabe's, was severely injured that evening and underwent several major surgeries, spent time in a wheelchair, and couldn't go home to her 2-year-old for more than 40 days.
I still struggle with understanding why I'm alive and others are not. I still struggle every time my son walks up to me and gently touches my leg and says, "Mama got hit by a car." Yep, Mama got hit by a car.
The judge sentenced Bailey to 30 years in prison, the maximum sentence allowed, and one Christina's best friend says he deserves.
He doesn't deserve to get out of prison because we do not get our best friend back ever.
When asked if there's anything he wants to say, Bailey kept most of his words to himself, saying there's not much more he could say to ease the pain he's caused.
After today,
But the words of his victims
I'm gonna go to bed knowing that Mr. Bailey is in jail for several decades.
remained loud and clear.
And I woke up this morning feeling good about that.
Now, before this incident, Bailey had been convicted of drunk driving 5 times. A recently passed state law now requires anyone who's had 3 DWIs within the span of a decade to use an ignition interlock device, basically a breathalyzer attached to their car before they can operate their vehicle. Happening today, a discussion on security changes at the state capitol. This all comes after last month's lawmaker shootings that killed Melissa and Mark Hortman and injured John and Yvette Hoffman. State Patrol says they'll be hiring a third-party expert to conduct a full security assessment. President Trump mixing White House and family business, hosting world leaders ahead of the opening of his new golf course in Scotland. While promoting his resort, the president is announcing trade deals, but it's yet to be seen what the impact will be on American consumers. He's also breaking with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on the crisis in Gaza and lashing out against Russian President Vladimir Putin. NBC's Alice Barr has the latest details from Washington.
Hi there. With that Friday deadline looming for more tariffs to kick in, President Trump is pointing to new revenue into the U.S., while leading Democrats zero in on the potential for higher prices for American consumers. The president also weighing in on foreign wars and a warning that some of the images from Gaza coming up are hard to watch. President Trump this morning debuting a new golf course at one of his Scotland resorts, a detour into private business after talking trade with UK and European leaders, including a new EU agreement.
Thank you very much.
Ahead of a Friday deadline when higher tariffs kick in for countries that haven't reached a deal, the president saying they'll face a global baseline tariff.
It'll be somewhere in the 15 to 20% range.
While meeting with allies, the president also looking to foreign wars, promising to shorten his 50-day deadline for Russian President Vladimir Putin to end his war in Ukraine.
I'm going to make a new deadline of about 10 or 12 days from today. There's no reason in waiting.
President Trump threatening new sanctions and secondary tariffs on Russia's trade partners, again voicing frustration with Putin.
Every time I think it's going to end, he kills people.
While also breaking with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu over his assessment that there's no starvation in Gaza.
Some of those kids that's real starvation stuff. I see it. And you can't fake that.
President Trump promising more U.S. support to establish desperately needed food centers with fewer restrictions amid global outcry over the extreme lack of access to food and rising deaths from malnutrition. Israel began allowing airdrops and limited pauses in fighting for aid delivery. But humanitarian groups warn the trickle of aid entering Gaza is not enough to stave off famine. A senior White House official tells NBC News that President Trump was disturbed and troubled by the images he's seen of starving children in Gaza, motivating him to step up U.S. support, as the world's leading body on hunger said today that the worst-case scenario of famine is unfolding in the Gaza Strip. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
New video this morning shows several kids being rescued from a hot car in Arizona while their dad was visiting an adult store for nearly an hour. Police say someone called them about the kids in the car and officers showed up just in time. Each child had an internal temperature of 100 degrees and the car, even with the doors open, was at 125.
Pink, red skin, sweating, crying, that kind of thing, that kind of showed officers kind of the severity of where this could have gone. They're inside of a car for upwards of an hour, which I can't even imagine what they, time-wise, felt it to be. Really hot, and then you're also now seeing officers put your dad in custody. I mean, that's the trauma associated with that is just profound.
Well, all 4 of the kids are expected to be okay. Their dad has been booked on 8 felony charges. Agents with the Department of Child Safety are helping with the investigation. Today, we are expecting to hear from Minnesota Task Force 1 back home after spending 2 weeks in Central Texas for flood recovery. The team spent 16 days in Kerr County, where dozens died in deadly flash flooding earlier this month. The 5 rescuers and 2 canines are equipped to work 24/7 in disaster zones. During their time in Texas, one of the dogs had to be taken to the emergency vet after getting into fire ants. They are all home safe now. Stick with us. More news and weather are coming up after the break.